Hello, namaskar, and a very good afternoon to all the viewers watching our session. You're watching PMeVIDYA channel number 11, and I am your host for this particular session, Simran Singh. Well, you can connect with us to different mediums, and one of them is our YouTube channel. You all know it is NCERT official, and a very warm welcome to all our viewers in NCERT's live interactive session. For another 1 hour, we have a session of biology for all class 11 students. Well, students from any other classes, if you have connected with us and you feel that this might interest you and you have any queries, any feedback for us, then do feel free to write down to us in the comment section of NCERT official. Besides, I would like to inform you the topic of the day. So today, the topic that we are going to discuss is not new for class 11 students, because previously we have conducted 2 sessions on morphology of flowering plants, and today is the part 3. That means if you haven't watched our previous sessions, then you don't have to worry at all, because all the videos, the links are available on our YouTube channel and also on the website of NCERT. So, providing us more guidance in this session, we are also joined by an expert in the studio. Allow me to introduce her to all of you. Here in the conversation, we have with us Dr. Pooja Gokhale Sinha. Namaskar ma'am, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Simran.
बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है आपका इस सत्र में.
Thank you, Simran. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Thank you so much for being with us in this conversation. Ma'am is currently serving as Assistant Professor at Department of Botany from Sri Venkateshwar College, University of Delhi. So throughout this live interactive session that we'll have for another 1 hour, if you have any queries, you all know that the comment section of NCERT official is for all our viewers. Besides, here is the contact number that is flashing on your screens. So you may also give us a call at 8800440559, and very specifically we also have a mail ID for class 11 students. So you can also the previous sessions for all our viewers, and then we might continue with the part 3rd.
Yeah, sure, Simran. I'll do that. I just want the students to know that we have already had 2 sessions of this chapter, and it is a very important chapter because a lot of terms related to plant biology is there in this chapter, and it is known as morphology of flowering plants. So in the first session that we had, we discussed the vegetative parts of a plant and the different type and the different forms of those parts where there are, the technical terms which are used to define, and also the examples of each term. And in the second part, we moved on to study the morphology of the reproductive part of a plant. What is an inflorescence, how are flowers born on the plant, and what type of inflorescence are there, how they can be distinguished or classified. So in this session, we are going to take that description forward. In the previous session, we had done the description of flower, the 4 important whorls of a flower, that is calyx, corolla, androsium and gynosium, the type of anthers, type of ovaries, stigma, style. All these concepts we have done in the previous session. In this session, we are going to start with fruit as the morphological factor or as an organ, and we are going to talk about the different type of fruits which are present in different plants, what are the technical terms which are used to describe fruits, and then on we are going to move up on that how all these terms that we have used to define or describe plants, how are they actually used to classify plants?
Of course.
Because all plants, they have leaves, stem and flowers, but how are they different from each other? And this classification, the foundation of plant classification, taking into account the morphology of different organs, that we are going to start in this session.
So before proceeding in the conversation, why not start with the concern of one of our viewers? So it is a student, and the student has asked us, how can I remember all the examples, ma'am? It is very tough to remember all those examples from different classifications.
Okay. See, I think the classification part, I am going to give you some tips in this session.
Some hacks.
Yes. Something to chunk on.
All right.
And then in the previous session also, if you, I don't know whether the student attended the previous session, but I had told them that when you see morphology or when you see a root or a stem, we had done a lot of modifications in the previous sessions. So each of those examples are something which are readily available around us.
Yeah.
So we have a potato, we have onions at home. So all these are plants which are always present around us. We just have to tell ourselves, आज मैंने ये वाला concept पढ़ा है, so let me just look around myself, okay, these are the points, these are the plants which are around me, and this is what the particular organ is called. So the technical term and something which is very visual, readily available at your homes, at around us in the gardens. So if we make a relation between them, you will never forget it. You don't have to learn it actually. You don't have to mug it up. It is something which will be very naturally coming to you, and you will remember it for life even if you don't want to after your exams also.
Of course.
So it's a very simple, because plants are all around us. It's very easy to
I think that would
remember
really help our viewer in there.
Yes.
So
Because this topic, it has a lot of terms. So the students have to put in.
So they might also take a pen and paper with them, and they start noting down.
Yeah, the presentation and the talk is available. But if you write while you are reading and listening, it actually helps.
And it always helps.
Yeah. So that is also one way of learning any concept, not just this chapter.
Of course. So let's begin the conversation.
Yeah, sure. So let us move on to the presentation, and the title of the presentation is Morphology of Flowering Plants. This is the third part we are doing. Now I'll be moving on to the part of fruit, what actually a fruit is, how a fruit develops, and what are the different terms which are used to define different type of fruits, and also the structures and the forms within a fruit. Now in this unit we are talking about flowering plants. So in the first unit itself we had discussed that flowering plants are the plants also known as angiosperms. They flower, and the flowers, they have a typical arrangement with 4 whorls, and then the process of pollination and fertilization happens, which eventually leads to the formation of fruits. So a fruit is a characteristic feature of flowering plants. We do not see fruits in gymnosperms. We do not see typical fruits in other lower form of plants. It is a mature or a ripened ovary. So when the process of fertilization takes place, the ovary, after the fertilization, after the zygote formation has taken place, the ovary starts to mature, and this process is also known as ripening, and a mature ovary is actually a fruit. So when we actually are eating a mango or we are eating a coconut, we are eating a mature ripened ovary which has a seed inside it, and also it has different wall layers which we eat. In some plants, the fruit is also formed without fertilization. That happens in plants such as banana, in which fertilization is not required, and without skipping the process of fertilization, fruit formation takes place. Now the process is known as parthenocarpy, and this kind of fruits, they are known as parthenocarpic fruits. So a typical fruit is we call a fruit when it has actually taken place after the due process of fertilization, when the pollen and the egg cell, they have fertilized to form a zygote, and then the wall layers of the ovary, they start to mature, ripen to form a functional fruit. Moving on, the next slide. A typical fruit, it has walls and it has an internal seed. So in general, the wall is known as pericarp. So the wall of the mature ovary, when it ripens, it becomes more fleshy, juicy, colorful. So it is known as a pericarp, and the zygote that has formed because due to the process of fertilization between the egg and the sperm cell, that eventually is known as a seed. Now the pericarp of the fruit, it can be fleshy or dry. We see a lot of variation in the type of fruits that are around us, and in general it is divided into 3 layers. So the pericarp, the outermost layer of the pericarp, it is known as epicarp, the middle layer is mesocarp, and the innermost layer is the endocarp. So if you want to remember the sequence, you can learn it like epi, meso, endo, starting from the outside. So together epi, meso, endocarps, they form the pericarp of a fruit, which is the wall layer of the fruit. Now we have in the previous session discussed some basic terminologies that are used to describe different type of fruits. We are going to take an example of a typical fruit which is known as a drupe. The fruit of mango or coconut is known as a drupe technically, and it is the term which is used for a fruit which has evolved or which has matured from a monocarpellary superior ovary and it has only one seed. So if you go back to the previous sessions, you will know each of these terms. We have discussed them at length. So whenever the ovary is monocarpellary, that means it has only one carpel, and the ovary is superior, so and it has one seed. So when such an ovary, it matures to form a fruit, that type of fruit is known as a drupe. In mango, we all had mango, and it is very juicy, fleshy. So the fleshy part that we eat is actually the mesocarp. So the pericarp of mango is differentiated again into three layers. So the outermost, or the skin of the mango that we peel off, that is known as the epicarp. The middle layer, which is fleshy and juicy, and it has a lot of flavors and also vitamins, that is known as mesocarp. And the innermost, the hard part of the seed, that is known as the endocarp. And inside the endocarp, there is the seed of mango. Now there is a lot of variation within a drupe. So technically mango and coconut, they are of the same kind as a fruit. But you may argue that they look so different. There is a lot of variation, and there is we cannot really imagine that they are all, both of them are technically same or botanically same, but they are same. The difference is that how the different layers of the pericarp they appear and what is they made up of. So what happens in a coconut is the mesocarp is the fibrous part of the coconut. So it is a hairy part, that is the mesocarp, and the hard part which is inside the mesocarp, that is the endocarp. And then you have the coconut which we eat. So the seed is a very small, coconut has a very small seed in it, unlike mango. But technically both of them are same. So these terms in a fruit you need to remember and also need to understand, and whenever you eat mango or you imagine mango, so now you should know that okay, I am eating a mesocarp. So that is how you will remember. You will not forget these terms. Now another important component of a fruit is a seed. Actually seed is the propagule which gives rise to the next generation. We germinate seeds, we sow seeds, and that seed, it becomes a new plant of the next generation. So seed, having a viable seed, a healthy seed is very important from generation point of view of plants. Now after the process of fertilization, the ovule proper, it develops into a seed, and the seed is made up of seed coat and an embryo proper. Embryo proper evolves from the development of the zygote. Now embryo, when it matures after the zygote, it divides mitotically, so it differentiates into new plant. So embryo actually gives rise to the shoot and the root in a new plant, and the embryo, it is it has an axis. So every time on the embryonal axis you will have two regions. One will be the radicle and the other will be the plumule, and the radicle gives rise to root and the plumule gives rise to shoot. And also the embryo, it has cotyledons. So the cotyledons are the structures in embryo which provide nutrition to the developing embryo. If you have seen pea ya matar, if you have seen rajma, so if you open the seeds, they split into two. So those two are the cotyledons.
Dicotyledons.
Yes, they are the dicots. They have two cotyledons, so they are the dicot plants. We all soak mung bean, green mung at home for its nutritive value. So after soaking, what happens? The next day if you open, the outermost layer of the green color, it can be removed easily. Yeah, it comes out. And the white cotyledons, they are clearly seen. And then also you see the embryonal axis. If you keep it for another day, so you can see small roots
outgrowing.
Yes. So actually the embryo has germinated in the seed. That is what we clearly see in germinating mung beans.
Is it the same in sprouts?
Yeah, most of the sprouts, all the dicots. But what happens is that if I soak rajma, I will not be able to see the roots very clearly.
Yeah.
So that is why some seeds, they have the propensity of germinating very quickly and fast. Some seeds, they need certain prerequisite conditions to germinate.
And
so that is why, yes, we can easily observe germination in mung bean, but the same kind of easy germination is not observed in all dicot seeds. But the process in nature is same. Now, next we have to talk about the structure of a dicot seed. The dicot seed, that it occurs inside a fruit. So now you just think that there is a fruit, the outermost layer of the fruit is, the fruit has 3 layers, epicarp. So pericarp, pericarp has outermost layer epicarp, mesocarp, endocarp, and inside the endocarp then there is a seed. Again the seed, it is made up of different layers. So the outermost covering of the seed is the seed coat. So it has a coat outside it, and the seed coat, it further can be distinguished into 2 layers. So the outer layer is the testa and the inner layer of the seed coat is known as the tegmen. On the seed there is a scar, a small mark that you can see, that can be very easily seen in Bengal gram, chola or the black gram. You can easily see. So this, the hylium, is the region from which the seed was actually attached to the fruit. So that is also very clearly seen in some seeds. And also the micropyle is the region from which is a small pore above the hilum. So again, this seed is a structure, it has different layers, and also you can see certain regions which is showing that it was attached to the fruit, because most of the times at maturity they wither off, and when the fruit is dry then the seed is the one which is left for the germination. Then the embryo inside the seed coat, it is made up of embryonal axis, and the embryonal axis, it is a longitudinal kind of a structure, not a very clear structure, but you can see that when it starts to germinate, then the embryo, the radicle starts giving rise to root, and the plumule, it starts giving rise to the shoot, and the 2 embryos are on the lateral side of the embryonal axis. So this is how a typical seed is arranged. Now in this diagram, it can be very easily seen that the cotyledons, they are fleshy. We are talking about the dicotyledonous seeds, okay, dicot plants like pea plant, like gram plants, like rajma. So all these are dicot plants. So the cotyledons are the major structure which provide nutrition to the developing embryo. So it provides a lot of reserve, it has a lot of reserve food material in it, and once the embryo starts to develop and once the root and the shoot, they start to emerge out, so they need a lot of nutritive material and they need a lot of energy. So that actually comes from the cotyledons. Then the embryonal axis, radicle and plumule, we have already talked. You can see in the diagram that the radicle is shown, the 2 cotyledons are visible, and also the plumule is visible. The radicle gives rise to root and the plumule gives rise to shoot. Next is in a dicotyledonous seed. Now all the dicot seeds, they they are not nutritively similar to each other. When the process of fertilization takes place, then whether the seed, it has an endosperm or not, the plants in dicots are classified into 2 subcategories. So endospermous or non-endospermous. Endospermous plants are the plants in which endosperm is present, and the examples are castor. So castor oil, when you derive castor oil, so that seed, it is an endospermous seed. And non-endospermous seeds are the peas and the beans. Usually the seeds like peas and beans, they are rich in protein, and sometimes they also yield like mustard, they are oily endosperms. So endosperms are very different in their nutritive value and their composition, and depending upon whether a dicot seed has endosperm or not, then the plants are classified into endospermous or non-endospermous. Now another very important category of plants based upon the number of cotyledons are the monocots. Monocotilidinary plants, they are different from the dicots in some basic morphological characters. The most important characters which actually has given them the name monocot, mono means one, cot means cotyledon. So the plants belonging to the poaceae or cereals like maize, rice, wheat, they are all monocot. They belong to the monocot category, and they have only 1 cotyledons, unlike the dicots. Now these cotyledons, they have endosperm, and the endosperm has high nutritive value, it is rich in starch, and also it has good amount of proteins also in some plants. So the monocots, they are richly endospermic seeds, except for some exceptions like the orchids. The orchids are beautiful. Most of you would have seen orchid flowers. So orchids are also monocots, and the seed of orchids, it is non-endospermic seeds. So there is a variation in the whether the seeds of monocots are endospermic or non-endospermic.
At times, cotyledons are also known as seed leaves.
Yeah,
is
sometimes.
that correct?
Cotyledinary leaves they call the first leaves that emerge out.
So why they
seed
call
leaves,
it leaf?
because it appears, it's green, it's fleshy. If you go to nature and if you just see that some seeds, they are germinating,
Yeah.
so they appear like leaves. So that
Okay.
is why sometimes, in layman's term, we call that them
All right.
leaves. Now again, coming on to the presentation, the seeds of cereal, it has a layer, the wall layer or the membranous layer, and the wall layer is actually fused with a fruit wall. So in the dicots, this kind of arrangement is not, the fusion is not there. So in monocots, the seeds, the wall of the seed coat is membranous and it is fused with the fruit wall. So the fruit wall and the seed wall, they are fused and they are usually very thin. Major part of the seed in a monocot is covered, or it is occupied by the endosperm. So the endosperm is bulky and it stores food. That is why cereals like rice, wheat and maize, they are used to take care of the dietary requirement. They have a lot of carbohydrates primarily. So that is very, very important. And in some a thin layer, alluron layer, that layer or in the wall of the seed, that is rich in protein. So they also have some components of protein, but majorly the seeds of monocots, they are rich in endosperm. Particularly the endosperm has a lot of starch. This is a section, this is a longitudinal section. If you cut the seed of a monocot in the longitudinal manner, then you can see that the plumule and the radicle is visible, and the plumule and the radicle, they have the endosperm in they have the embryo in between, and this is an embryonal axis that we can see. The radicle, it has a layer which surrounds it, it is known as coleorhiza, and the plumule, it has a layer which surrounds it, which is known as the coleoptile. So the coleoptile and the coleorhiza, they protect the emerging shoot and emerging root respectively, because in nature they have to move through the soil and make way. So they actually are the sheaths which are covering these two ends of the embryonal axis or the embryo. And the cotyledon in monocots, it is very, very large, and it is it is shaped like a shield, and it has a big amount of the cotyledon. It has endosperm, and the endosperm is rich in starch, and also at the periphery there is an alluron layer which has radially elongated cells. So the endosperm in wheat, the cells are rectangular and the nucleus is very prominent, and the complete layer of endosperm can be easily seen in under a microscope. And then you have the wall layer, or you have the seed coat and the fruit wall, which is actually which is fused. So this is a typical the section if you cut it longitudinally. So this is what you will observe, and this is how a monocot seed actually appears to be diagrammatically. This is a diagrammatic representation.
And ma'am, with respect to cotyledon, someone has also mentioned in the comment section that apart from mono and dicotyledonous, do we have any other classification like haploid or diploid?
I think monocot and dicot are the only two classifications that is dependent upon the number of cotyledons. We do not have more than 2 cotyledons and less than 1. Haploid and diploid, the child needs to understand that it is actually, haploid plants are the ones in which the genome is present in a single copy. Diploid may, the genome is present in double copy. So diploid, all the cells except the germ cells. So except the sperm cells and the egg cells, and in the plant except the pollen grain and the egg cell, all the cells, they are diploid. So they have 2n, that means n is the single copy number of genes, so 2n. So all the genes will be present in duplicate, in a diploid cell, and in a haploid cell, all the genes will be present in a single copy. Haploid cells are formed after the process of meiosis, reductional division, and diploid cells are formed after mitosis. Any mitosis in a diploid cell will give rise to another diploid cell. So the child needs to understand that these are two different concepts. Ploidy is actually the genomic composition, the number of chromosomes or the number of replicates of a single chromosome. And cotyledon, monocot and dicot, it is depending upon the number of cotyledons which are formed in the seed. So these are two different. In a monocot, you will have haploid and diploid cell. In a dicot also, you will have a diploid. You will have a haploid and a diploid cell in all group of life forms.
And also, what does happen to a plant when the cotyledon is damaged?
When the cotyledon is damaged, then the plant, this process of germination does not take place successfully.
So it doesn't flower, or it takes
it does not germinate.
time.
It does not grow into a new plant properly.
All right.
And even if it does, then it will be a nutritively compromised plant. So the plant might be a short height plant. It will not grow up into a fully mature plant as it would have if both the cotyledons were perfect.
All right.
So because it provides nutrition.
All right.
So this is now. After we have discussed the type of fruit, what is present, what are the wall layers of fruit, and what happens in a seed, what is a radicle and a plumule. Now we have in the previous two sessions and some part of this session already talked about a lot of terms. Now it's very obvious that students will have in their mind that what are we going to do with terms, why do we need to remember these terms? But these technical or semi-technical terms, they are actually help us to classify plants. Our ultimate aim is to classify plant, give them a taxonomic description, which will help us in further analyzing plants. So these morphological terms, they are used to describe characteristics in plants, and these characteristics, these morphological terms are very important because there is a lot of variation in plants. So, and very closely resembling plants, you would be surprised that the grass that we see in the garden, the lawns and the bamboo, they belong to the same family. So they are so different.
Question over here with regard to the morphological names or the terms. Why are they hard to pronounce and difficult to spell?
See, most of the terms, they have been Greek and Latin in their origin. And those terms, if you break them into smaller terms, and if you understand why this sub-term is being used in this term, then it is not at all difficult. Like actinomorphic. Actino means similar, morphic means morphology. So a student needs, he or she should not just mug up these terms. It is not very advisable to mug up terms. If you understand why the term is used and what actually it means, so you will not only understand and remember the term, but you will also remember what it means. So what is the meaning of the term, and you will never forget it. And then you can, extrapolate, or you can visualize plants around you, and quickly you can come up, okay, this is it is an actinomorphic flower. So that you will never forget those terms. It's actually, there is an aversion or some kind of a phobia with these terms. So you just, like just say divide and rule is the best policy. Divide the term and then you can rule it.
And understand the meanings in the first place.
Because whatever the term is, it has a meaning. So nothing in science is just some words that have jumbled up words and they have they have been termed. So they have a meaning.
We still have around half an hour to go in this session. So if you have any queries, any other details, well, some of you have asked us questions, and I think ma'am has appropriately answered your queries. Still, if any questions are left unanswered, anything you would like to discuss with us, then do write to us in the comment section, and we'll surely come up with answers. We will proceed.
Okay. So we move on. Now we were talking that why these terms are important. These terms are important because these terms actually help us differentiate between plants. Two very similar looking plants might be very different. Two very different looking plants might be belonging to the same family. So when we want to classify a plant, group them into categories, and merge them and put them under a particular genus or a particular family. So these are the terms which actually help us to understand, okay, why this particular plant has been put in this family. And also when you will read more about plant description and the family, you will understand that one particular family has certain basic characters and all the members of the family will have those characters. So these terms are very, very important and you all should know these terms. I will not say you mug up these terms, don't remember, just break them, understand them, and there will be no need to learn them. You will quickly understand them. So moving on to the presentation now. The description, whenever we describe a plant, so we start the description from morphological characters, from vegetative characters, from the habit, what a plant is, whether it is a herb, shrub, tree. Then we move on to the shoot, then root, and then eventually we go to the inflorescence and then the type of the flower. Each of these, there are a lot of terms which have been discussed. So you quickly have to, once you understand these terms, you will be able to tell us, okay, this is a rose plant, so it seems, the flower seems to be an actinomorphic. Okay, this is orchid flower, this is zygomorphic. So you can immediately come up with your own, like, taxonomic description of these plants by using the appropriate terms, if you know the terms well. Then after we have described, we have to put them into a certain family, and those family characters are also written in the end. And two very important concepts, or two very important, I will call them as tools of identification and description, are the floral formula and floral diagram. So the floral formula is actually, like in chemistry we have formula H2O. Whenever we write H2O, immediately water comes to our mind. So likewise, the plants also have floral formula. The flowers can be quickly written as formulae, and then also an interesting diagram, which will just, by looking at the diagram, you can say, okay, this is the description or this is the arrangement of different appendages in the particular flower. Now on the screen you can see, in order to describe a plant and give its floral formula, we use certain terms. So in a flower, we move from the periphery to the inside. So from the periphery, we have the calyx, and after still in some plants we have bracts and bracteoles. So those terms will come first. So if BR is written, then that means that the flower, it has bracts. If K means what will be the calyx of the plant, like, then corolla, it is represented by C. Perianth, in some plants we do not have calyx and corolla, so they are represented by tepals. So that is a perianth. So then if there is a perianth, then we write P. Then coming on to the reproductive parts of a flower, we talk about Androsium, which is represented as A, Gynosium as G, then a line. If the line is below the Gynosium's G, then it means that the ovary is superior, and then if it is above, then the ovary is inferior. So these are the terms in the floral formula. If I know that the G is written and a line is placed above it, then immediately it should come to my mind, okay, the ovary is inferior. Then if it is a bisexual flower or a unisexual flower, so if only male flower is there, then the symbol is used. If only female flower is there, then the symbol is used. If it is a bisexual flower, then you use the symbol 11th. Actinomorphic flower, when the flower can be cut into equal halves in many planes. So actinomorphic flower is connoted by this symbol. Zygomorphic flower, something like a percentage is used to represent a zygomorphic flower. So these are the terms. Now we come to a very basic kind of a floral diagram. So it is a typical diagram of the family Brassicaceae, mustard family. So the topmost, a very small circle you can see, that is the mother axis. Now mother axis, most of the times children make this mistake that whenever they are drawing a floral formula, they don't, they are not representing a mother axis. The axis actually represents that the flower is born on an axis on a plant. It has to be there. Okay, so the top region, there should be a small circle which should represent a mother axis. irrespective of whichever flower you are describing or drawing the formula or the diagram for. The outermost green parts that you are seeing, they are representing the calyx. Now if the calyx are fused, if they are merged, then you join them. In this case they are not merged, so they are free. Okay. Now when the calyx is free, if you look at the floral formula given below the diagram, you will very clearly see that the first is actinomorphic. So you have a circle and a cross. Then it is a bisexual flower. It has both Androsium and Gynostium. So both the symbols are there. The symbol of bisexual flower is there. Then K is the calyx. Now calyx, you can see in the diagram that the calyx, two sepals are in front of each other and two are in front of each other. So it is in the form of a cross. It is brassicaceae, earlier known as crucifery. So because it shapes, the shape appears to resemble a cross, so that cross is represented. So two calyx or two sepals are outside and two are inside. So that is why when we have written the floral formula, we have written K 2 plus 2. So 2 plus 2 means they are not in a single whorl, they are not together. एक ही circle में नहीं है, line से सारे. Also, we have not put a bracket outside the 2 plus 2. So if a bracket is not there, it means that they are free, they are not fused. Okay, fusion अगर दिखाना है तो then we put a bracket. Fine. Next again we come to the inner whorl, that is the corolla and the sepals. So 4 sepals you can see, the smaller green appendages. So those are actually arranged end to end and in the same circle. So that is why we have not used 2 plus 2. We have simply written C 4. And since they are not fused, so no fusion has been shown, and also हमने bracket भी नहीं लगाया है 4 के आसपास. Then internal we come to the androsium. You can see there are 6 stamens. Stamens are represented by this structure, and 2 are arranged outside and the 4 others are in the inside in a circle. So that is why 2 plus 4. This kind of an arrangement of the androsium is there. Gynostium, again we can see the ovary, the line is below, so the ovary is superior, and 2, that means it is a bicarpellary ovary and it is fused. There is a bracket outside 2 in this ovary. That means it is a bicarpellary syncarpous ovary. The ovary, the carpels are fused. So these are the basic rules of writing a floral formula.
And ma'am, how does these kind of questions appear in an examination? Do they ask about the floral formula or ask about the floral diagram?
Both are required. If you are describing, so they can ask both. So, and in their syllabus 3 families have been defined. So these 3 families, they should know the floral diagram and the formula. So if they understand the description, so they don't have to learn this.
Yeah.
They should, automatically, okay, zygomorphic hai, so I just put a cross, round and 1 line. Actinomorphic hai, round, fir ek cross. Okay, does it have stamens as well as the, gynostium and androsium, if both are there? So they will put the hermaphrodite sign, that means male and female both. And in exam they can get like describe ways. Either ways. So they can get a question in which they have to draw the floral formula of a family or give the floral diagram. So if they know the description well, it will be very easy for them.
Yeah.
So the the answer is to understand the terms and the description. Then you don't have to learn things. That will be like, it's very easy. And 3 families, it is not something big, and all the 3 families are very easily seen around you. The family which is in their syllabus. Brassica, if you just see the floral formula and diagram, students during the winter months, they can go around in fields and sarson ke phool to sab dur mil hi jate hain.
Yeah.
They can just open it and see, the curiosity if you have, then these things don't appear anything. You will be more interested and fascinated by these because it's everywhere around you. So now we move on to the families which have been listed in their syllabus, and in the first family that is there in the syllabus is Fabaceae. Fabaceae is the family, it is also previously known as Papilionoideae, and it is a subfamily of Leguminosae. It is distributed throughout the world. All the legumes, pea, all most of our pulses, they all are members of Fabaceae. Now, first, vegetative characters. These can be trees, they can be shrubs, herbs, and they can be roots, and they have nodules also. Now, the next is stem. This is the sequence in which it is showing on your screen. This is the sequence which you should use in order to describe. This particular component is very well dealt in practicals in schools. So, whenever you are doing this practical, be very careful, be very observant, and meticulously record your observations. So, the first thing that we talk about is stem. It is an erect, it can be a climber also. Then leaves. Leaves are alternate, pinnately compound, or they can be simple. They have a base, and the base, it has a pulvinus. Now, this pulvinus is a small, swelling below the leaf near the petiole, which is actually a characteristic feature of this family. So, when you know the description and when you don't know the characteristic feature, immediately you can say, okay, I can see the pulvinus, this might be Fabaceae. So, this is like its diagnosis. So, okay, fever hai, so there might be some infection. So, it is something like that. Then venation, it is reticulate. Reticulate venation again indicates that it is a dicot. Then we move on to the reproductive characters. The first character is inflorescence. In Fabaceae, the inflorescence is raceme. So, in raceme, usually what happens, it continues to the major, like the axis, it will grow, and then you can see that on the tip small flowers are there. The other is cymose, in which the main axis it stops to grow, and the secondary axis they have flowers. So, there is a variation in these inflorescence. So, if you go back to the previous session, you will quickly understand how to describe an inflorescence. Then coming to a flower, it is a bisexual flower. That means it has both Androsium and Gynosium, and it is zygomorphic. Again, if I cut the flower longitudinally, then I will have two laterally superimposable halves. But if I cut it laterally, then I will not have. That is why Fabaceae, the flowers are zygomorphic. And also these zygomorphic flowers, they kind of give us an indication, okay, I can see zygomorphic flower, maybe this family is Fabaceae. So, when you go to field and if you want to be a taxonomist, plant taxonomist, then these interesting tips you can, note down. Then we describe the calyx. Sepals, first we write that the numbers are 5, then gamosepalous or polysepalous, that means whether they are free or they are fused to each other. Then volvate, how are they arranged, or imbricate. So, the family, it shows both type of estivation, because it is a big family, there is a lot of variation, it has small climbers and it has trees also. So, you can see a lot of variation within the family. Then corolla, petals are 5, polypetalous, that means they are not fused. The papilionaceous corolla is there. Now, this arrangement of petals in this family is a characteristic feature of this family. So, if you have this type of an arrangement, immediately you should come to a conclusion, okay, this is Fabaceae, this is Papilionaceae, okay. So, what is the arrangement? The arrangement is it has a big posterior standard, the one which is at the top. So, the posterior standard is there, that petal. The other two are laterals, so they are known as wings, two lateral wings, and then two anterior small lobe-like structures which are known as keels, and sometimes they are also kind of they fuse with each other also. So, this typical arrangement of this corolla in Fabaceae, this type of an estivation is known as vexillary estivation, and is also seen in all the members of Fabaceae. So, these small indications or descriptive features, they quickly can help you understand, okay, this is the family. So, it is zygomorphic flower, it is a papilionaceous kind of a corolla, vexillary estivation hai, so it can be Fabaceae. And if you have a pulvinus, then all the more, with each tick that ye character hai, so okay, this is going to be this family.
So, it becomes more easy to identify.
Yes, very easy, and then you don't forget. So, if you remember, if you learn, try and mug up, then the chances of forgetting is very, very high. If you observe, make your own notes, then it is very easy to remember them.
Because
Now,
the questions that are being asked in the examinations are not so simple.
yeah, they ask terms.
Yeah.
That majorly that I have
And it's more about your understanding.
Yes.
Not just the theoretical parts
Yes.
that we mug up.
Because it's a big chapter. It has a lot of terms. So it's not advisable, and it is not the right way to do science. Science has to be observation based, and then you write. So if you learn, then you're not doing science.
And of course, the sessions are for class 11 students. If somebody has opted for medical,
Yes.
of course, then
Yes.
they are reading
Yes.
biology.
And then these are the students, those who have interest in biology.
Yeah.
Some of them are going to be doctors, some are going to be researchers, some will be plant scientists, some will
Some
be
going to
animal
be teachers,
scientists,
science teachers.
some teachers. So you have to have the spirit of observation rather than remembering. Remembering and mugging doesn't help in the long run. You tend to forget things. So now moving on to the other characters of this family. Androsium. There are 10 stamens and they are diadelphous and the anthers are dithecous. We have read these terms and understood them extensively in the previous session. So those who have joined us only for this session, those students can easily hop on to the previous sessions. Gynosium, the ovary is superior. It is monocarpellary and it has many ovules and the style is single. Fruit in Fabaceae is it is a legume and it has seeds, and the seeds can be one to many and they are non-endospermic seeds. So again, this is the floral formula of Fabaceae. Let us interpret it again. You can see the first symbol which shows that it is a zygomorphic flower. It is showing a percent-like symbol. Then the next symbol, it shows that it has both Androsium and Gynosium. So hermaphrodite symbol. Next is calyx. Calyx is K. 5 are there, and in the floral diagram you can see they are fused.
So we have bracket over there.
Yes, so we have a bracket. Then corolla 1 plus 2 plus 2 arrangement in the vexillary estivation. It is not like all the 5 arranged in a single whorl, and the same kind of representation you can see in the floral diagram also. So that is why in the formula 1 plus 2 plus 2 is written, and then we have put a a small bracket outside only one of the two. So the posterior one, the standard, that is fused, so that is why they have shown it as a single unit, and the other 3 are free. Okay, the laterals are not fused, so they are free. That is why no bracket outside the center wala 2, the laterals. Then the next is the Androsium. Androsium, very clearly 9 plus 1 arrangement is seen, out of which the 9 stamens are fused and 1 is free. So 9 plus 1. And then the Gynosium, it is monocarpellary, and the ovary, it indicates that the ovary is superior. So if you understand, you just take a flower of a pea plant or any member of Fabaceae and you open the fruit and open the flower, you will so easily understand all these things that you will make your own diagrams.
Are they all easily visible?
Most of them. You should actually, the examples, the families which are in their syllabus, they are very easily visible. You don't have to, go to a microscope or a dissecting microscope. But still, like, if you have a dissecting microscope in your school, you can just go and, see them more clearly. But these flowers, you can see them very well, very easily. Now, the next family which is in their syllabus, this is the economic importance of Fabaceae. I am quickly going to go through it because I think we are
10 more minutes.
Yeah, 10 more minutes and 2 more families. So they are used as source of pulses, and they are edible oil. They give edible oil. They give dyes like indigofera, fibers, fodder. So all these are economic importance of the members of Fabaceae. The next member family is Solanaceae. Solanaceae is also, which we have all around us. We have Bagan, we have Bhindi. So they are all members of Solanaceae. So you just cut open a Bhindi and cut open a Bagan longitudinally or transverse. So you will see a lot of, tomato is there. Aloo is also Solanaceae, but aloo is not a fruit. So we will not see aloo. We will not cut aloo to understand the description of a fruit.
And also, is tomato a fruit?
Yeah. All vegetables are fruit botanically. Okay. So all the vegetables, because they have all come from the ripened ovary. So that is why they are technically fruits.
So the general understanding of fruits is quite different from the botanical understanding of fruits.
Yes. Whenever a ovary, it ripens to form a fruit, that we may consume it as a vegetable like tomato and all, and we may also consume it like
in
a fruit.
raw form, right?
Yeah,
Fruit.
like
Alright.
mango is also fruit and tomato is also fruit for a plant scientist or a botanist. So moving on to the Solanaceae member. Again, it is a cosmopolitan member. It is usually found almost throughout the world, and also it has majorly herbs represent Solanaceae members, and some examples I have already given you. So now, what are the characters of, what is the habit? The habit or the vegetative characters, they are herbs, shrubs and small trees. You do not have a lot of trees in this family. Then the stem is herbaceous. Sometimes it is woody, then it is aerial, erect, cylindrical, and also it is solid, it can be hollow. All these terms we have already done. So stem, underground stem is also very important. Like I have told you that potato, what we eat in potato is a stem, so underground stem. But potato is a member of Solanaceae. If you open the flowers of potato, it will have all the characters, and the fruit of potato will also be somewhat like the fruit of tomato, like tomato, it will be like tomato, but it is not edible. What is edible is the stem. Now coming to the leaves, they are simple, alternately arranged, and they are not compound majorly, and they do not have a stipule, and the venation is reticulate. It is a dicot, so it will always have reticulate venation. Inflorescence, solitary, axillary. I am not going to go into the details of these terms. We have already done these terms very in detail in the previous session. So this is how you first describe the flower, then you come to the calyx, then you come to corolla, then you come to androsium, gynosium, fruit, and then the seed. So this is how you describe. And also when you describe it in your classroom or you are making notes for yourself, it is always advisable to draw sidewise, so then you always remember what you have drawn and what term you have given. This is the floral formula and diagram for the Solanaceae. Now Solanaceae, you can see it is actinomorphic, so you have a circle and a cross in the floral formula. It is a hermaphrodite flower, the plant is hermaphrodite, so you have both male and female symbols there. Then the calyx, 5, fused, so you can see the fusion. Corolla, and you can see a small mark or a bracket like on the top of the C and A. So corolla and androsium, they are attached to each other. So if the petals, they are supporting the stamens and the stamens are emerging from the petals, then you give this kind of a symbol to indicate that they are fused and they are they are jointed. So the calyx, the corolla, you have 5 petals and those 5 are arranged in a single whorl, so that is why 5 is written as single 5, and then there is a bracket indicating they are fused. Androsium, 5 but not fused, they are all free, but they are attached to the corolla, that is visible in the floral formula as well as in the diagram. The Gynosium, it is a bicarpellary ovary. In the center of the Gynosium, you can see a small round, it is swollen. So that swollen placenta is also a very important feature of the family Solanaceae. And then you have the ovules which are arranged on the placenta in an exile presentation. So this all is very clearly visible in the floral diagram, and the formula represents the numeric and the symbolic value of what you see in a floral diagram. The next family that we have, again importance, economic importance, most of the vegetables, tomato, brinjal, and also potato, that is all, they all belong to Solanaceae. Then tobacco is also it is a member of Solanaceae. Petunia, ornamental chilies, the spices that we eat, red chili, green chili, they are all members of the family Solanaceae. So Solanaceae and Fabaceae are the 2 dicot families that we have done. Now the third family that we are going to hop over is Liliaceae, and it is a monocot family. So monocot family, we are taking an example of Liliaceae, and we all have seen lily flowers, we all eat onion, so onion is also a member of Liliaceae. So lily family, it is a very characteristic family which is used to represent the monocots, and it is distributed worldwide. So it has ornamental value, it has economic value, it is used as a vegetable crop also. So these are perennial herbs, these are all herbs, herbaceous species are there. Monocots are not trees. We have not yet come across a typical tree-like arrangement of in monocot is not observed. So Liliaceae, it is a perennial herb and it has underground rhizomes and bulbs through which it is propagated. Then the leaves, they are basal, they arise from the base and they are linear and alternate, and the venation is parallel. This is very important to note here, that as soon as a flower or a plant shows parallel venation, so it is going to be the member of a monocot family. So that is why Liliaceae, the parallel venation is observed in the leaves. Coming over to the reproductive characters, inflorescence, it can be a solitary or a single flower, it can be cymose, and the cyme can be arranged in an umbellate kind of a manner or an umbrella kind of a manner. So allium, onion inflorescence resembles this kind of an inflorescence. If you have seen onion flowers, they are beautiful flowers. We only see the onion economically important, the stem that we eat. Now the flowers, they are bisexual, actinomorphic. Monocots, this does not have calyx and corolla, so it has a tepal, it has a perianth. So tepal is an independent individual member of perianth, and there are 6 tepals, 3 plus 3, and they are fused. Then it is also, it has Androsium, the stamens are 6, they are 3 plus 3, epitepalous, that means they are associated or attached with the tepals. Gynosium, it is tricarpillary, syncarpous, ovary superior, trilocular, and it has many ovules in each locule, and they are attached to the placenta and in an axial manner. So now coming over to the floral formula and diagram of this plant, it has a bract. So it is a bracteate, so we can see a BR written, which was not previously written in the other 2 families. So it has a bract, then it is an actinomorphic flower, so you have a circle and a cross. Then it is a hermaphrodite flower, so you have both the male and the female sex organs, Androsium and Gynosium, and also petals are there. So no K and C, you have a P representing petals in monocot. So if you have Liliaceae in your exam, so you know that petals, you have to write about petals, not the calyx and corolla. So the petals are 3 plus 3 in 2 whorls. You can observe this in the floral diagram also. So 2 outer and 2 inner petals are, tepals are there, and then they are fused. So that is why there is a bracket. Androsium, they lie inside the tepals, they are arranged in a 3 plus 3 manner, that means in 2 whorls of 3 each, but they are free. Unlike in the Fabaceae, in which 9 out of 10 they were fused. So in this it is 3 plus 3, and then next is Gynosium, 3 tricarpillary ovary fused. So this is how a Liliaceae flower will look like, and this is how the floral formula of Liliaceae will look like. So this has the economic importance of Liliaceae, and
I think that our viewers could read it on themselves.
Yeah, they can themselves. So we've almost
So is it an end to this chapter, that is Morphology of Flowering Plants?
Finally, yes, they have.
Okay, then we don't have a continuity session for this, right?
No, we don't.
So we have completed it in 3 sessions.
3 sessions.
So I think it takes ample of time for the students to recall the concept.
When you study at home also, you should break this chapter into smaller parts. If you think that you will sit for 1 day and 2 days and just completely kind of try and remember this, it will be difficult.
Or it would be confusing.
You will confuse. So
learning and understanding all the
You divide your enemy and then rule your enemy. So if you have a big chapter, just divide it and then you
So that was the trick you mentioned in the beginning.
Yes.
All right. So thank you so much, ma'am, for being a part of this conversation and sharing the valuable time with us.
Thank you so much.
And clearing all the concepts of our students related to morphology of flowering plants. Thanks you so much.
Thank you, Simran. Thanks a lot.
Thank you to all the viewers who have connected with us for this particular session. Well, you don't have to go anywhere because our upcoming session is for class 12th students and the session would be for English. So we will be discussing about stories, as we all like to hear, learn, know more about stories. But we all know that we have been subject to different kinds of childhood. So we have the stories of stolen childhood. So what are the stories that we are going to discuss? What are the different characters? You'll get to know in the next session. So stay tuned and keep watching PMeVIDYA channels. Namaskar.